Hi, welcome to part two of my interview with Alex Jones from the Yuba-Sutter Blue Zones project. So in part one, we discussed what a blue zone is. So a quick recap of that. There are certain areas in the world that they found have an inordinate number of people who live to be over 100 and live very healthy into very old ages. And so they took those communities, studied them, and looked for commonalities. What are the things that they were doing? What was going on in those communities that made them a place where they had so many people who lived healthily over 100 years old? So we covered some of what are called the Power Nine, the things that they found in common in these communities, which, by the way, are all around the world, from Greece to Italy to Japan to Costa Rica to America. So will join us to now as we finish this discussion, starting partway through with the Power Nine principles, and then we'll finish up by discussing how you can live a Blue Zones lifestyle, even if you're not in a Blue Zones community. Join us. Thanks.
Oh yeah. Yes, absolutely. And then the next item in our right outlook category is downshifting, which is another probably foreign concept to our busy, busy lives here in the United States, is taking the time to downshift. In some of our blue zones, in Greece, actually, if you were, I've never visited this particular blue zone, but they do not have like clocks on the walls the same way that we do here.
Oh,
I don't know about you, but I am living by my calendar and what appointment do I have coming up
wow.
next? And
14
in,
alarms in the phone.
yes, and in some of these other cultures, they just live such a slow pace of life. They are not worried about the time. I'll get there when I get there, really taking, and I mean, that sounds great and maybe not really realistic
Yeah.
for us here, but how can we find those little moments and pockets of time where maybe we could live like that, maybe on the
Mhm.
weekend or in the evening after our children have gone to bed and we're done with work for the day, like really taking that time to just decompress, downshift, do something else that does not involve a screen, read a book, do a little stretching, listen to a meditation, take a nature walk outside. Downshifting is really, really essential to our longevity as well.
Yeah. And that's a great time to, call your sister that lives far away that you don't get to see all the time, or the things that we keep going, oh, I meant to do that. Oh, I meant to do that. And I just don't have time. That's the kind of thing that's great to slip into that kind of time.
Yep. Yep. Taking that time to relax and connect is very, very important.
And because we have such an emphasis on, doing, 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 and that every moment of the day needs to count for something. And well, okay, well, now it's time to disconnect. Well, disconnect means, go on social media and scroll. It's like
Yeah.
that's not, it doesn't do the same thing to us, our brains, as when we really just downshift and unplug.
Yes, and it can be difficult. I mean, I struggle with downshifting quite a bit. I almost feel sometimes like I'm not being productive.
Hmm.
I am just, I mean, meditating. Like, sounds great, but do I really have, 15 minutes to just lay here and, go to a different space? Like, you just have to like force yourself to do it. You really do have to mentally take time for yourself, or else it just slips away. We know that. I mean, we at Blue Zones Project, we've done, it's called the Real Age Test,
Hmm.
where it's a questionnaire, an online survey where individuals fill out some information about their health. How much do you sleep? What's your water intake? How are your stress levels? And through the Real Age Test, we've been able to identify that one of the number one health risks in our community here in Yuba-Sutter across the board was stress. Like
Hmm.
stress is a big thing that we battle here in our community, and I would argue probably most communities and most individuals. And so downshifting, I think, is really that key in
Hmm.
combating some of that.
And the thing with stress, sometimes when we think about stress, we think um, it's got to be this, I'm on this deadline for this project at work. And so we feel that stress, or we think it's some big thing, but really looking, the studies show that it's the low level stress, the more constant, more low level stress that actually does more damage physically, mentally, and emotionally than even, a temporary higher stress. You just got married in September. Planning a wedding is a joyful but stressful thing.
Yeah.
That's a stress that comes and goes. And
Mhm.
so while that can have some impact, it's even the low level stresses that are just with us so much of the time that
Mhm.
really can cause a lot of damage. And so taking that time to decompress and to downshift can really work wonders, not just for our mental state and our emotional state, but actually for our physical health as well.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see here.
So next up, I think we
Mhm.
have connection. And I think
Mm,
there's about three power nines that fall into
mhm.
that bucket. And again, this one always surprises individuals when we give Blue Zones presentations around town is how important connection is. We know from the Blue Zones research that individuals who are lonely, like truly, truly lonely, it has the same impacts on your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Oh my word.
Isn't that wild?
Wow. Hadn't heard
Relationship.
that statistic. That's
Yes.
really shocking. Even I know how important, the studies about loneliness really don't show any good things as far as physical effects, but I didn't realize 15 cigarettes a day. Wow.
Might as well smoke 15 cigarettes a day. Like that is how detrimental isolation and loneliness can be to your health and well-being. And again, we have just seen these numbers skyrocket post-pandemic. We see this a lot in our senior citizens as well, is isolation, loneliness. And so one of the things that one of those Blue Zones Power Nine pillars in this particular area is loved ones first, putting your loved ones first, family first. Of course, family could look a little bit different for everyone. It isn't always, your blood relatives. In today's day and age, we kind of have the opportunity to make up our own families. And so putting your loved ones first is so important, which again is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Working is really important to a lot of people as well. So really being able to turn that off and focus on your loved ones at the end of the day, can add years to your life and life to your years, truly.
And that's one of the great things about living in the time that we live is that even like one of my children lives in Nebraska.
Mhm.
But the technology, while we may not be able to be together in person, very often the technology allows us to connect through texting and through video calls and through all kinds of different ways that didn't used to be available to us. So it's never been easier to stay connected in that
Mhm.
regard.
Yep, that is true. So some of that social media and our phones do have a place,
Mm.
do have a place when used wisely and reasonably. But connection is so, so huge. Relationships really are, I think, the cornerstone of our existence. But that is just, I could talk about that for a long time too. And then also in this connection pillar, we have the right tribe. And so we know that you kind of are the makeup of the five individuals that you hang out with the most. And so really being conscious of who you're spending time with, having people that you have similar interests and moral values with, like really finding your right tribe. In Okinawa, Japan, they have really mastered this. They call it their moai. They call them moais, and it means reasons for coming together.
Mm.
Um, and it's individuals who have shared values, shared interests come together regularly to connect, to play games. We in Blue Zones here in Yuba-Sutter, we try to really kill two birds with one stone. We do walking moais a lot of times around town where we're encouraging individuals to move naturally with some walking, but also connecting. Um, and so Moais is and it can be used in all different kinds of ways. It doesn't always have to be walking.
Mhm.
We have potluck Moais that we encourage in some of our work sites that we work with, getting together and cooking, bringing a healthy meal for people to try. And so finding those people that you can count on, that you can call on a bad day, is important.
Mhm. Absolutely. And then another thing that I found really interesting, which, my own personal experience, I had had been my personal experience, but I was quite it was just really lovely to see that it's one of the Power Nine, and that is belonging to a faith group.
Yep. hmm Belong is part of the connection pillar as well. And we know that individuals who belong to a faith-based organization, denomination does not play a part. This is startling, and attending services at least 4 times a month, it can actually increase your longevity by up to 14 years.
Wow.
hmm
Wow. So just having that faith element in place. And then when you're actually, involved in a faith community, then there comes that connection with it as well. It comes your pack, finding your tribe. I mean, it just touches on so many of these principles,
hmm
so many of them. And to
Yeah.
have that care of your spiritual side as well, however that looks for you.
However that looks for you, yes, it is really, it's amazing, honestly. And again, it's just something that you can do for your health and well-being that doesn't cost any money that maybe you're already doing, and just putting that like title to it, knowing like I am practicing a Blue Zones Power Nine belong right now. Um, and really keeping that a part of your life and sharing that with your families and your children, it can set them up for very, very fulfilling life.
Mm, that's just so beautiful. So just a quick review. So moving naturally, finding your purpose, downshifting, 80% rule, eating with a plant slant, friends at five. So connecting in that social aspect, belonging, having a faith group, faith-based community, a positive pack, finding your people, and putting your loved ones first. So those are the Power Nine. So we are fortunate in our area to be part of the Blue Zones project, one of the Blue Zones projects. You want to tell us about what that is and what that means?
Yep. So, Blue Zones Project is in about 80 different communities across North America. And what that looks like is, of course, a little bit different for every communities because communities have their own personalities. But across the board, these Blue Zones Project teams go into communities and try to set up the environment so that individuals are just naturally nudged into healthier lifestyle habits. For example, we have like an individual on our team who works in policy. So if I want to move naturally and take walks around my community, but there's maybe no sidewalks or it's not safe for me to do that because people speed right here and there needs to be a stop sign, we look at all of those things so that way people are more likely to be able to move naturally if their parks are cleaned up and if it's safe for them to do so. And if we have a walking moai and we have a group of 10 people who are going to take a walk every week, maybe I'll just join them, safety in numbers. So, really looking at how these communities can set their environments up to make healthy choices easier, maybe even inevitable. We work in different restaurants around town, and this is all the Blue Zones communities across the board as well, to become Blue Zones Project approved. So, adding healthier menu items. Of course, if individuals are going to eat out, if they have options that are healthier, they're more likely to make that option. If that option is there, of course, nobody likes being told what to do, and we don't do that. We certainly don't do that at Blue Zones. We just like to have those options there in the forefront, and for people to be able to make that choice.
Create the environment.
Yep, create the environment.
So, and this was born of, oh, we haven't mentioned yet the documentary that's on Netflix.
Yes.
So this, let me finish this one thought, and then if you can tell us about that. When I was watching that, it was just so interesting to learn about all the different aspects and, going through the different communities, 5 areas in the world that are identified blue zones. And then I thought, this is really interesting. I got so excited when at the end of that, they're like, but knowing is nice, but how can we recreate this? And I thought that's the question. And so that's where the Blue Zones project was born, correct? Is trying to recreate that in other communities, right?
You got it. Mm-hmm.
And then you want to talk a little bit about the documentary that's on Netflix?
Yep. So there is a documentary that came out on Netflix that really dives a little bit deeper into these Blue Zones communities, what these communities look like, some of their practices and principles and stories from these communities. Um, and it is a four-part documentary series, and it's available on Netflix for anyone and everyone to watch. And it has been so wonderful because I think it really put Blue Zones like in the homes, in the forefront of, millions of people across the country, across the world. And so we have just seen so many people more interested in what is this Blue Zones? What is this lifestyle? How can we get involved? So it has been wonderful for Blue Zones being having this documentary series on Netflix.
And what is the title of that?
It's called Live to 100.
Live to 100. And it goes over, Dan Buettner is the host of it, and he talks about how he came to this project and what he discovered and trying to implement it in other places.
Yes, yes. Live to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones.
Yeah, so good. It's like you said, only 4 parts. It's not doesn't take long to watch. It's not a big binge.
Not a huge binge.
And it's so interesting. So interesting. So we are fortunate enough to live in a Blue Zones project community. So if somebody listening is not in that situation, and maybe they wanted to see if their community could become one, what could they do?
Yes. So, and actually, here in Yuba-Sutter, we are fortunate enough to have a Blue Zones project in our community, thanks to our local hospital. Adventist Health and Right Out has actually funded a Blue Zones project for our community for 5 years, so that everything that we do is completely free to the community. It is a gift to the community in hopes of becoming a Blue Zones certified community. So if anyone out there is interested in having a Blue Zones project in their community, I would definitely say reach out to us, reach out to me, and we can connect you with our Blue Zones national team to see how they can maybe look at what that could look like in different communities.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And if they're in a community that is not a Blue Zones community and is not going to become a Blue Zones community, then what can we do?
Yes. So I think that is also something that I really love about Blue Zones is it is something that is accessible to anyone, anywhere, everywhere. I try to think of even in my life while I do live in a community where we have a Blue Zones project, I just set up my little home, my space to be a Blue Zones space for me as well. So incorporating some of those Power Nine habits, as we talked about earlier, I try to have like a 10-inch plate for my dinner. So just setting up my space so that way I'm nudged into healthier lifestyle habits. Being really conscious, I feel like technology is wonderful, it has its place in our world, but sometimes it forces us to, it almost makes life a little bit too easy. I know like a couple years ago, I used to have this little remote control that I would like turn my Christmas lights on outside with this little remote. And as I started like learning more about Blue Zones, I'm like, my goodness gracious, walk outside and click the switch, plug it in, unplug it. So just being conscious of all of those little, ways that maybe we use technology to make our lives easier, how can we also be sure that we are, you know, still incorporating some of those healthy habits,
Mhm.
parking a little bit further when you run to the grocery store. At some of our spaces, we have Blue Zones parking spaces. You may see around town encouraging individuals to walk a little bit further, finding those people that you can count on a bad day. That's what I love about Blue Zones is it really is something that you can do in your own little space as well.
Mhm. Yeah. And when you're looking for a Blue Zones parking place, the beauty of it is you can always find a parking place where you want to park.
You can always find a Blue Zones parking space. That is for sure.
So thank you so much, Alex. So recently I actually got to meet Alex in person. I went to one of the cooking demos and was I should have had it with me. I didn't bring it in here. But they're like, here's this beautiful cookbook. And the Alex was not doing the demo, but the woman who was, she said, "Oh, here, you can have this cookbook." I'm like, and it's really a lovely cookbook. It's 100 recipes. Um, and it was just given to me free of charge. So where can people access those? And I got the American version, but you want to talk about the cookbooks and like what versions there are and how people can access them and
Yes, there's actually a ton of different Blue Zones literature out there as well. In addition to the cookbooks, if this is of any interest to you at all, there's a Blue Zone challenge book out there, which is like it walks you through a 4-week program of incorporating Blue Zones into your life for just 4 weeks, and just seeing how that goes. There's all kinds of, I think there's about 6 different Blue Zones books, including the cookbooks. So. And they're all available for purchase on Amazon here in Yuba-Sutter. We also have these books available at our local libraries, at the Yuba and Sutter County libraries. But we know that I feel like in order to truly make a healthy change in your life, it's got to be something easy. It's got to be something simple. So if you don't want to spend the money, come on over and see us on Plumas Street. Blue Zones Project is located at 607 Plumas Street in Yuba City. And we're almost always there on Tuesdays. We're a small team of 6 individuals. And so we like to be out and about in the community. But you can almost always find us there on a Tuesday afternoon. And we are more than happy to give you a cookbook, give you any of the Blue Zones books that you find interesting, and chat with you. We'd love to meet you.
so if somebody was looking for, if they're not in a Blue Zones community and they're looking for this literature, if they just go onto Amazon and do a search for Blue Zones, is that how they would find it? Or maybe looking up Dan Buettner's name or
Yep, if you just typed in Blue Zones books on Amazon, there will a ton of things that come up. They also have a website, of course, social media handles at Blue Zones, where you can follow any of the Blue Zones communities out there. You can find a list of Blue Zones communities on the Blue Zones website.
Hmm.
Of course, if you're here in Yuba-Sutter, you can follow your local Blue Zones project team at BZP, like Blue Zones Project at BZP. Yuba-Sutter, and we do all kinds of events around town. Again, everything that we do is completely free to the community, and we just want to make healthy choices easier for our community here in Yuba-Sutter.
That is so wonderful. And this whole series is called Creating a Life That Nourishes Body and Soul. And that's one of the things I love the most about Blue Zones is it really encompasses all of that.
Yeah, it
All of
really
that.
is a body and soul, all-encompassing approach to health and well-being. Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of Alex, our final question for every interviewee to you, what do you feel are your top one, two, or three things that are really integral to living a life that's truly nourishing body and soul?
I would say my top 2 things to living a life nourishing and body and soul. My number one would be, yeah, this is a hard one. It'd be between connection and purpose. I
Mm.
truly believe, and I think this happened to me becoming a mom, that there is nothing more important in this life than relationships. At the end of the day, that is what matters the most is your relationships. I feel like there's so much emphasis that we put on like our work and our career. And almost the very first time, you meet someone, you're like, oh, what's your name? What do you do? That is just, it's so much emphasis is put on our career. And I love to change that narrative. And it's like, what is your name and who are you? Like, like I'm a mom, I'm so much more than my career. And I hope people, really, really start to change that narrative and really start to prioritize their relationships and connecting with community and with their loved ones. And the next step would be purpose. Really utilizing your gifts. There's a beautiful quote that we always say in our purpose workshops that so often people go to their graves with their music still inside them.
Mm,
Like we each have such a beautiful, unique gifts that I just feel like sometimes go untapped. And so really looking at those unique things that you have to offer the world and using them and sharing them is that is right up there with my top two things in regards to nourishing your body and soul.
mm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for all of the information. And I would really encourage anybody who's not familiar with Blue Zones to just go hop on Google and ask Chat GPT, whatever your preferred method of searching is. Go to Amazon and check out what books are available. It's just go to Netflix and watch the series. It is such great information and a way that is a global thing. These blue zones, the originally identified blue zones, are literally all over the world. So it's something that is it's a global thing. It's a universal thing. It's not specific to any type of culture, any type of life. It's it's just across the board of way that can really create a life that nourishes you, body and soul.